is designed for those of you that when you lay down flat on the floor, you can't get your feet above your hips. So you have no chance of doing this. Let us have this as a definition for a rock. So you're so stiff on the backside that you can't do that. And when you sit on your butt and you try to get your knees down, there is just no way. It's just completely resisting. And another definition can be that when you squat down, you can't get further than here because your knees are killing you and there is just no way you can sit down like this. Or if you're on your belly and you try catching your feet and you have no chance, and if you catch your feet, you can't lift up at all. Your body is just resisting so much. And I'm gonna assume that you are also very, very strong, because it's very, I think I've never seen someone who is very, very inflexible and very weak at the same time. So that is actually very good news, because the fact that you are very strong and very stiff it provides good protection for the body. If you were to be in a car crash and you have a really stiff and hard and heavy body, it's probably gonna save your life. But that doesn't mean that it's unhealthy to be flexible, especially not in Jiu-Jitsu. And this program, this first Yoga for Rocks program, is designed so that you will work yourself from here to maybe even be able to start inverting and playing the inverted guard. I'm not gonna promise that you can go from a complete rock to a Dalsim in Street Fighter, like a rubber human. But maybe 10% on the way is gonna feel like a transformation for you. You need three things. You need a belt. You need something, an object that is hard, that you can use as a block. A yoga block is preferred, but you can use a couple of books or whatever. And also a heavy, thick pillow. So you can just take a pillow from the sofa, but you can't use a bed pillow that is squishy and soft. There has to be some actual padding in it. I call it a bolster. All right, so let's start. So grab your belt, lay down on the floor, right foot flat, left foot up, hook your foot with the belt, and you can take a long belt, like use your belt on the furthest, so you can start at 45 degrees with a straight leg. And then we're gonna use some dynamic moves here to loosen up the backside. If your leg is already shaking, then you're doing it, then you didn't start on square zero. We have to start on square zero. So if your leg is shaking, you can start really far away. Take a breath here. And then bend your knee and straighten it as high as you can. Straighten the leg and slide the leg out to 45 degrees or somewhere around there. Try again. Bend the knee, kick the leg up and out. So these first moves, bending and stretching, is to figure out where the magic spot is. I think the magic spot is what's going to make a huge difference for you. Instead of being where you're shaking like crazy and you can't breathe and you're just thinking about it being over soon, trying to find this sweet spot, this magic sweet spot where you can feel the stretch intensely without being too emotionally affected by it. We're not going to talk about results at all in this program. We're just going to be concerned with the details of the actual physical poses. I'm going to remind you to breathe, but I'm assuming that you already have got a grasp on that breathing is important for yoga and stretching. So breathe as much as you can. Try not to overthink it. It's just breathing in and breathing out. Switching sides, left foot flat, right foot up. Start as far away as you possibly can. So the leg shouldn't shake here. It should feel comfortable and relaxing in this angle of the hips. Bend the knee and kick the foot up and slide it out. Do it a few times. Figure out how much resistance you need with the arms, exactly what degree in the knee, if you have to bend the knee or if you can lock the knee straight. And when you find the sweet spot, stay there. Your lower back should be flat here. That's why you're bending the left knee here. If you're stretching your leg out, your lower back is probably gonna feel it. So you're pushing the foot down to relax your upper body and your left side. The only thing that is actually affected here is the calf, the knee, and the hamstrings. Take a couple of deep breaths here. And then release the belt, sit up on your butt, and grab a block and maybe even your bolster, your big pillow. Put the block under the pillow, sit down on your knees so that your butt is touching the block under your bolster. All right? Sit like this. If this hurts your knee, you need more padding under your butt. Maybe you have to fold the pillow double. But the idea here is classic Japanese meditation pose, and we're doing this to stretch the front of our thighs. So for me, I would have to go back and lean back to get a stretch, but for you, maybe you even get a stretch when you're leaning slightly forward. So can't we all agree that you start here, leaning forward, and then you experiment going back as much as you need for there to be a stretch in the front of your thighs. You have to activate your belly here, which makes it harder to breathe. And I'm assuming that your thighs are really strong, like tree trunks, and like common sense will tell you that if you try to stretch 2-3 tree trunks at a time, it's going to be harder. So what you can do if you only feel fatigue in your belly here is to place one foot up and lean back. And you could preferably have a wall behind you. I forgot to say that's the fourth prop we need. Fourth helper is the wall. We're going to use it a lot. So lean back and squeeze your left butt here. So if your right foot is in the floor, squeeze your left butt and stretch the front of your hips and the front of your thigh. Let's stay here and breathe. So you're squeezing the butt, you're engaging the belly. Those two actions combined will make the front of your hips stretch. The hip flexor is this muscle that connects the lower back through the hips and down the inside of the thigh. The hip flexor is probably one of the things that make you feel most awkward when playing guard, because most rocks I know, they play from top, and the only thing they do from bottom is half guard, because half guard doesn't require any flexibility at all. But it's the hip flexors that is killing my rock friends. So the more you stretch the front, the easier playing guard will be for sure. Switching sides, lean forward. If your knees are hurting, you can just stretch it out a little bit on all fours. Sit down again and switch sides. If you don't like switching sides, you can do both at the same time, but for me it's much harder. This is more balanced and neutral, and it's easier to just, with a small squeezing of the buttock and leaning back slightly, I just put a little bend in my elbow and squeezing the butt, and that's enough for there to be an intense stretch on the front side. One thing about the feeling of being stiff, it's two different things of being immobile and feeling stiff. The people I hear complaining most about feeling stiff is actually dancers and gymnasts and people that can go into a perfect standing split or really crazy flexibility, they complain a lot about feeling stiff. And for you and me, that's like, it's rude because they don't know how it feels to be stiff. That's how we think. But the feeling of being stiff is never going away. You will always feel like rusty and stiff when you didn't move, when you slept overnight and you start stretching in the morning. Everybody feels stiff. So what we want is just to take you from where you are now, rock phase, into the a little more nimble, flexible phase where you can actually start playing guard and using your hips and your lower back in jiu-jitsu so that you don't have to suffer injuries. All right, we're finished with this one. Let's move to the wall and just throw both legs up the wall. So if your hips are lifting here and you feel uncomfortable, then you can take the pillow and place under your butt. So I actually recommend starting with your butt on a pillow and try to keep the legs straight for this one. Straight legs, hips on a pillow, and breathe. If you're used to running and powerlifting or kettlebells or any CrossFit, any activity that is really fatiguing and intense, then you're probably not going to understand what this pose is about. But you don't have to. You just have to trust me that you have to stay here for a while, relax, and let the pose, you have to get to know it gradually. It's just like a jiu-jitsu position. When someone showed you the mount for the first time, you weren't supposed to understand it. You were just supposed to be there for long enough to understand the mechanics and just get a feel for the position. And it's the same here. You have to get to know this position, and some positions takes a long time to learn. It's like every pose has a different personality, and some are really quirky and awkward, while others are very easy and easy to know. Take 5 more breaths here. And then just stay exactly where you are. Just move the feet wider than your hips. Take a breath here. And then 3 inches wider. Take a breath. And then let your feet, don't push them, let them slide as far away from each other as feels good here. And if you need, this might actually be smart, if you feel intense sensation on the inner knees, inner thighs, make sure nobody's watching, just slowly caress your inner thighs without being creepy on yourself. Just massage the muscle that is tensing the most. And this is actually extremely helpful, because you might think that the muscle is spasming and really stiff, but if you just tap it a little bit and caress it a little bit, it really helps it to relax. And if you have inner knee problems, you can do the exact same pose with bent knees. Then you can support your knees and just kind of do a wide-legged happy baby supported by the wall. Take 5 more breaths in your position. And then for the next one, you're probably going to have to slide out from the wall slightly. You can keep the pillow under your butt. Place the right foot in the wall, on the wall, and then get your left ankle on top of your thigh. And if this was the wrong sequence, then you maybe have to keep the leg straight first, ankle on thigh, and then without using your hands at all, try to slide the right foot down the wall. And this might be more than enough. Maybe you have to go a little bit deeper, but it's not smart to go straight to 100%. You want to kind of ease into the pose and make sure you have all the details in place. For example, some of you probably did this, where you can see the underside of your foot. That's not what you want. You never want to put a triangle over your toes. You want a triangle over the ankle like this. So the same thing here. This is a triangle stretch. And the upside is, if you have really thick thighs and strong legs and short legs and stiff legs, when you catch a triangle, it's going to be tighter than any triangle in the world. If you have long, skinny legs and it's flexible, you can easily catch the triangle, but it's going to be hard to finish. But if you do this stretch and you get flexible enough in your hips to actually close the triangle correctly, nobody is going to escape it, because the room between your thighs and your calf is going to be so small, and when you engage all the muscles and squeeze together and add your arms, you're going to have the nastiest triangle in the world. But most people with short legs never do triangles because it takes quite a lot of work. This is the work. It's actually kind of easy work. We can't really call it work, but it takes dedication and consistency to actually loosen up the outside of your hips enough to do a rock triangle. Switch sides. Ankle on thigh. Slowly slide the heel down. And breathe. Maybe slide the foot further down. If you need to support your knee with your forearm or hand or elbow, do that. We want to be able to relax everything, and the gravity and the wall is actually doing all the hard work. So we can just be passive, be an observer, and just stay here for as long as we can manage. And I want you to keep flexing the foot. I don't want you to relax the ankle. I want you to engage the ankle a little bit. So relax the whole body, but not the ankle, because create that as a habit, because when you close the triangle, you want the toes to point toward the knees. All right, enough of this. Away from the wall, away from the bolster. Sit down on your butt. Cross the ankles. And just move the knees up and down. So if you cross the feet, it's going to be harder to get the knees down. If you try to walk your feet away from each other a little bit, this is going to be easier. Just rock up and down. And actually, let's use our pillow again. Sit up on the pillow. And if this is not enough, you can even put a block under the pillow. But if your feet are closed, then you're going to fall forward. You probably have to move your feet a bit in front of you, get the knees down. And if one knee is hurting, usually one knee is hurting, just put some support under the knee and then try to lean forward. And you can place your fingertips on the ground or hold on to your feet or push your elbows into your knees, but lean forward as much as you can. And This is probably, if you feel this everywhere, in the hips, in the legs and in the back and in the neck, perfect. Then this is the pose you should do every morning. First thing when you wake up in bed, sit up and do this pose for 5 minutes. If you tense up your neck, you're gonna take the stretch away from the whole back. If you can release your chin to your chest and let your head hang, then you're gonna stretch the whole back of your whole back. One more breath. And switch sides. So change the crossing of your ankles. Knees up and down first. And something that is probably very difficult but that you have to start practicing is rolling the hips forward. That's why we're sitting up, because you don't want to lengthen your spine here and collapsing when you sit up. When you sit up, you want to sit up. So you're rolling the hips forward and the chest will automatically lift when you do that. It's going to be hard because the back of your hips and your lower back is super tight. So you need to actually fatigue the front muscles in order to get the length you need. So knees up and down. And then support one knee or both knees and then try to lean forward. Drop the chin, and one thing you have to stop doing is thinking stiff thoughts. If you're sitting and saying, I'm so stiff, fuck I'm stiff, damn I'm stiff, shit I'm stiff, that's not gonna help. If you don't think at all, that's the best of course, but if you need some positive affirmation, you can inhale and exhale, think flexible thoughts. There is probably one part of your body that you're not stiff in at all, you're just tensing it up. For example, the neck. Or maybe your left shoulder is tensing up, relax it. So instead of trying to work with the whole body at once, you just take a breath and focus on one part of your body. And don't be obsessed with the results, because most likely you are not aware enough to actually notice the results. So when we sit here for 10 breaths, there might have been a lot of positive change that you don't notice because you're not familiar with the subtle differences between sitting in one position and sitting half an inch deeper. So don't bother about measuring, just trust the process. If you get a 1/7 of an inch, which is impossible to measure for a single person without a camera, a 1/7 of an inch, if you do that every day with that improvement, that's 1 inch in a week, and 1 inch is a lot. If you do that 4 times, that's 4 inches, and that's more flexibility than you will probably ever need. And sit back up. So this was the first program. This was the first day of the Yoga for Rocks inverting program. So tomorrow we will work more with the upper back, and we will try to start working on the technique on inverting. Thank you guys. See you in the next video. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Yoga for Rocks Inverting Week. We still need a block, a belt and a bolster, BBB, and a wall. So today we're gonna start same thing we did yesterday. Right foot up, catch the foot, but this time try to keep the leg straight and do biceps curls. So biceps curl as much as you can and then relax. So engage your arms but relax the back of your leg, and then you kind of push the leg away from you and stretch the arms. So when the arms are engaging, the leg is stretching, and opposite. So keep doing this. Inhale when you biceps curl and exhale when you stretch the arms. Three more. If you feel that we're not doing enough of one pose, just click the pause button and keep going for a couple of minutes.